moment we speak to the Ombudsman, that is Honorable Florence Kajuju. She's still here in studio, and she's the chairperson of the Commission on Administrative Justice, otherwise known as the Office of the Ombudsman, and the second Ombudsman of the Republic of Kenya from 2nd August 2018 to date. She is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya with over 25 years experience on the bar, and has also, before the appointment as the Ombudsman of the Republic, was the woman representative for Meru County in the 11th Parliament. In addition, she's also the president of the International Ombudsman Institute IOI African chapter, and she was elected on the 9th of November 2021. Mheshimiwa, thank you so much for staying with us. Welcome back to the Daily Report.
Thank you, Judge.
Brilliant.
We are still here.
You're still here. And indeed, those are quite some accolades that you have. And when you look at the role of the Commission on Administrative Justice, that is, in and of itself, ensuring that justice is administered in the country. And the basic definition of justice is ensuring that, one has a just behavior or treatment. Do you presume, or do you think that in this country, justice is something that is observed wherever, in all aspects and in all spheres, especially in government?
If you may allow me, George, yes. First of all, maybe I would just like to say what the Ombudsman is.
Yes.
And this is a commission that is established under the Chapter 15 commissions, Article 59(4). And we have several commissions, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, the National Gender and Equality Commission, as well as the Commission on Administrative Justice.
Yes.
And this commission, which I was privileged to serve from the year 2018, as you put it, looks at issues that deal with how then public officers administer justice to citizens. And from where I sit, having practiced as an advocate and ensuring that citizens are able to have their grievances resolved through the court process, which is an adversarial system of litigation, I believe that the drafters and the thinkers who came up with this commission were very clear, because the commission deals with alternative dispute resolution, whereby we employ the methods of reconciliation, mediation, and arbitration. So basically what the commission is trying to do is to support citizens so that they don't have to go to court, to go through the technicalities of a court process, to go through the issues of payment of legal fees, to go through the issues of delay. So we are trying to support citizens to ensure that if you've been aggrieved through a public officer's inaction or action, or omission, or delay, or maladministration in the public service, then citizens can come and lodge their complaints within the commission, and we as the commission then are able to summon the public officer who is at the wrong, or be able to write to them and ask them why they have not helped that citizen as it is expectant, and through engagement with the other party, then we are able to resolve these kind of disputes, whether it's employment, whether it is issuance of identity cards or passports, or all these issues that public officers are expected to deliver service as a matter of course. So from where I sit, I believe that it's a great way of ensuring that Kenyans receive justice, not just the justice itself, but it is resolved in an expeditious manner with the minimal cost. And of course, as the Ombudsman, we don't charge. So all that you incur is maybe the cost to take yourself to the commission offices, although as we move on, I'll be telling you how we have made it easier for Kenyans to access the services of the Ombudsman.
Okay. These Kenyans you talk about, Mheshimiwa, do you think they understand the role of the Ombudsman regarding, conversations that we've even had, perhaps the office, we need to review the establishment of that office. Are those sentiments that you agree with? When we speak about the name Ombudsman, yes, it doesn't sound like it's a name that Kenyans can connect with. And that is why
if you look at the Constitution, what you'll find is the Commission on Administrative Justice, which is easier and Kenyans can connect with. So it is also, of course, a matter that is ongoing in terms of ensuring Kenyans get to reach the services of the Ombudsman. And that is why we have decentralized so much of our services. We have 6 offices across the region. Of course, we have Nairobi, the headquarters. We have an office in Mombasa. We have Eldoret. We have Kisumu. We have Isiolo. We have Nyahururu. We have Garissa. And we also partnered with the Ministry of Public Service in the Huduma centers. Within the Huduma centers, we have the Ombudsman's desk, where we have our officers who then can receive complaints from the Kenyans and transmit them to the offices. This is not enough because we have 12 Huduma centers or Ombudsman's desk at the Huduma centers. But we have also moved to ensure that we educate Kenyans about the services of the Ombudsman through the Ombudsman Mashinani. So we moved to various counties, be able to bring together Kenyans and speak to them about the services we offer as the Office of the Ombudsman, so that then when they get these complaints, they can always come to the office and be able to lodge the complaint. But we also established a system called the Complaints Management Information Systems, which we launched in May 2022. Yeah. And this now system, you're able to launch a complaint from the comfort of your home.
Mheshimiwa, then in a month perhaps, how many complaints do you receive as the Commission?
We receive around 500 complaints across the country, and we are able to ensure that these complaints are resolved within a period of a month. But we also ensure that where we have to go into, because we have different ways of resolving complaints. There are where in some situations we do inquiries. In other situations we summon the public officers who have not responded to the letters that we write to them. So it takes a span of 6 months before a complaint is resolved, depending on the response by the public officers who have aggrieved the citizens. Okay.
If you could divulge perhaps even the resolution number, because you receive up to 500, about how many are resolved out of those? Do you resolve the 500 themselves? Or, what's the rate of resolving these cases and these disputes?
Our resolution rate of complaints is around 74%. Okay. So in every 1 month, we sit back and check what we have resolved. And, we don't just deal with complaints. We also deal with access to information, because in 2016, the Parliament, which I sat in, was able to pass the Access to Information Act. And after the passage of the Access to Information Act, Parliament, in its wisdom, resolved that the Commission on Administrative Justice implements the Access to Information Act. And this is just to ensure that government is able to release information to the citizens. So we oversight the national government, the ministries, the departments, the agencies, and we also oversight the county governments. So we expect public officers to proactively release information, like matters of procurement. When you are procuring the services of services of the county, which are supposed to be offered to the citizens, then you release that information on your websites, and when citizens inquire about that information, they're able to get it. So we also implement the Access to Information Act, but also ensure that counties have information officers who then can be reached out to by the citizens to ensure that they give that information as and when it is required. Okay.
Mheshimiwa, let's look at some of the cases that, perhaps include, the oppression of some of Kenyans. And we're talking about those who end up, even serving jail terms that, for cases or situations where they are later acquitted and found not guilty. Ordinarily, what is the procedure of such a Kenyan? I mean, what do they need to do? Because they have been aggrieved upon, do they need to sue the state?
That I can advise you as an advocate, because as the Ombudsman, we are not allowed to deal with matters that have been determined by the courts or the judiciary. Criminal matters are not within our jurisdiction. It falls within the jurisdiction of the magistrates or the judges, and of course the DPP and the DCI. So we don't touch matters where someone has been arrested, they have been prosecuted, they have been found guilty, maybe they have appealed in the high courts. So we don't deal with criminal matters. Ours, we deal with complaints against the public officers. So when the public comes to us and they lodge those complaints, maybe there is a public officer has failed to issue a passport, because that is one of the issues that we have investigated and passed on the report to the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Interior and National Administration. Or if it is about land matters, where public officers, land registrars have not issued title deeds to citizens, they'll come to us and complain. If you've been unlawfully removed from public service. If you are employed by government and at some point they unlawfully dismiss you from service, and according to you the principles of natural justice have not been employed, you come to the Ombudsman and we are able to summon the ministry or to the department or the parastatal, and we are able to look at the issues and determine as to whether you get back to your service provision or maybe you are released and paid your dues. So those are the issues that we deal with.
Okay, so would you give us perhaps an example that, came of a case, a heavy case that perhaps a complaint that was raised to the Ombudsman, to the Office of Ombudsman, and then you progressed all the way to its completion?
One of the cases that I'm proud that we intervened is the Saudi Arabia immigrant workers. There was a situation that even now it is happening, and some of the Kenyan girls mostly travel out of the country to seek for jobs, especially in the Gulf. But this particular situation we are dealing with Saudi Arabia, where we end to investigate, because as per the law we can investigate suo motu, which is on our own motion. If we find that a matter is of public interest, the Commission is allowed to move itself and be able to investigate that particular matter, because it affects quite a number of Kenyans. In this situation, we found that most of the people who travel out of the country end up in situations that are not worthy of a good lifestyle. When they get to be employed in the Gulf, most of them are denied their rights, maybe food, maybe medical services, maybe their passports are confiscated, and many other situations that are just abuse of the rights of the workers who travel. And you find that it wasn't clear who is in charge of this traveling and the recruitment of the girls. So when we investigated, even with recruitment agencies, we found there are quite a number of private agencies that recruit our people. There are also quite some inadequate training, because like if you're traveling to the Gulf, we would expect you to be trained in as far as the language, because we know most of them don't speak English. So if you go there and you don't speak their language, then that becomes a barrier. How do you then offer that service? So we investigated the Ministry of Labor on the laws, the labor laws that the ministry has, and how it makes sure that the agencies that are recruiting then can comply with the labor laws. We also got some of the girls who had traveled to the Gulf to come and tell us exactly what happens when they get there. Because there are those who ran away from there. There are those who say their passports were taken away. There are those who have even passed on. We've seen situations where girls who have gone there have passed on, and their families are crying for their bodies to be brought back. So we brought in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We also brought in the Ministry of Labor. We brought in the Immigration Department, because they're the ones who issue passports. Then we brought in NITA that trains, and brought in the various private recruitment agencies. And our final report was given to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Labor to be able to ensure our recommendations are followed up to the letter.
What did you recommend? I'm curious.
We recommended training of the girls who have to travel. We also recommended that government must be able to ensure that those who have traveled outside the country then are registered in the embassies or the missions or the consular, where when they get to the Gulf or any other country for that matter. We also recommended that some of the laws, the labor laws, must be amended. We identified areas where we felt there is a lacunae or a gap, a legal gap, that then needs to be filled up for Kenyans to be safe. And we also recommended that when Kenyans suffer from the conditions that they find where they're employed, there should be safe homes within the consulars or within the embassies, that the embassies should be able to establish a safe home, so that if you get a situation that then is uncomfortable, you can easily get to the safe homes and be able to get rescued. Okay. The other report I would like to mention is about the passports issuance. We had some complainants who came to the commission, and they said that the immigration department delayed some of their passports. Some of the officers there were asking for money for your passport to be processed. And in some cases, you'll find it's a patient who is supposed to travel. And then instead of the passport being issued on time, then there are complications that were not being understood. So we moved into the immigration department. We brought in the Minister of Interior. We brought in various other state agencies. And we prepared a recommendation or a report that we gave to the Minister of Interior. And I'm happy to report that the Minister of Interior has really moved in to ensure that within the immigration department, then Kenyans are able to get their passports within a record time. So those are investigation reports that I can bring to you, Judge, at any one given time, because Kenyans need to know what the Ombudsman is doing to make their life easier as we move on. Yeah, the recommendations in that report on the, the Gulf countries and these agencies that help recruit workers, immigrant workers to go work elsewhere. Do you think that some of the recommendations in these reports that the Office of the Ombudsman produces, that they are adhered to the letter, as in they are given the full force that is required, because you've given an advisory role? That's a challenge. Some of the things that we are looking at as the Commission, as we exit next year, is to check, as per the laws, the Commission on Administrative Justice Act, the Access to Information Act, among other chapters of the law that we deal with, or statutes, what has worked, what needs to be changed in terms of amendment, and then how do we move forward? Because most of the commissions now are over 10 years, because as the Constitution was promulgated in 2010, most of the commissions came to be in 2011, 2012. So we are saying that along the way we have found areas where the law needs to be amended. One of those is when the Commission makes a determination, what is contained in that report, there are recommendations. So we are asking Parliament, because like our Commission, our Oversight Parliamentary Committee is Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. So we are speaking to the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee and asking that some of these laws need to be amended, so that the recommendations of the Ombudsman then can be given the full force of the law. So, because someone in government might just decide to place that recommendation and it gathers dust. Precisely. But another thing that is good about this progress is that when the current administration came to be, the President found it fit to place the commissions and the dependent offices within the presidency, where now we are able to access the deputy president, because the president decided at the executive order that the commissions should have a sitting in the deputy president, where the deputy president is the liaison office of the CCIOs, the constitutional commissions and independent offices. So one of the roles of or some of the roles of the deputy president is to ensure that he's able to speak to us when we have challenges on budget, because that is a major challenge of dependent offices and commissions. Also, implementation of the recommendations of the commissions and independent offices.
Okay.
So right now we are supposed to go for a retreat with the Office of the Deputy President to be able to relook at areas in which then he can bring in a strength and advice and help us in terms of recommendations and ensuring that Parliament can also support us to ensure that we make amendments to the laws. Yes.
And those are quite, some important, points that you raised there. So when you look at the overall now, the composition of these constitutional commissions, do you think that perhaps, collapsing them into one to be able to have, this service delivery to then reduce this conversation, because then Kenyans would wonder, all these constitutional commissions, what are they for? Do you think that perhaps you either need to expand further or remain as it is, or do you need to collapse them into one?
This constitution, when it was passed in 2010,
yes,
is it around 65%
yes,
of Kenyans saying that it's a good document? But of course, there is that part that we say it needs to be amended. But Chapter 4, which deals with the fundamental freedoms and rights of Kenyans,
yes,
is key. It is one of the freedoms that Kenyans must protect and safeguard because they fought for this freedom, they fought for these rights.
Yeah.
Some of the rights they fought for is administration of justice,
yes,
human rights, gender. That is why we have Article 100 in the Constitution that talks about women, youth, vulnerable, marginalized groups, the special interest groups. So these commissions are expected to make sure that the lives of Kenyans is easier. The Constitution also allowed Parliament to be able to restructure, because within the Constitution, the independent offices and the commissions have a name. But Parliament then restructured and was able to give us the Human Rights Commission and the Gender Commission and the Ombudsman's Office.
Yes, yes.
So each of these commissions is important, and collapsing them, amalgamating them again,
yes,
then becomes a problem. You can't collapse them again because each of us is serving a very important role. Actually, what we need is to ensure that government gives these commissions much more in terms of budget so that we can spread out. We can decentralize the Office of the Ombudsman to the 47 counties. That is how the EACC, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, is in every county. We also have other offices that are like the AG's office, like the judiciary, it's in every county. Every county has a high court station. So we are also saying, can we decentralize our services much more so that Kenyans mashinani are able to get the services of the Ombudsman at the closest level, because we decentralized the counties, we've devolved the functions, which means the functions of the counties then need to be checked at the mashinani level. Yet the Ombudsman is not able to serve every county in this country.
Absolutely.
So, Judge, we cannot collapse them.
Absolutely. And indeed, that is a question that I saw raised on Twitter, and that's why I brought it forward. And, coming from a Kenyan who, asked about those, constitutional commissions. But thanks for that response. A conversation that we continue having right here on the Daily Report with Honorable Florence Kajuju, who is the Ombudsman. She's explained what, the Commission does, what they've been able to do so far. When we come back from this short commercial break, we'll be seeking to understand now, moving forward, what are some of the things that the Commission needs to see done. Are Kenyans also responding, and much more. We are back in a few minutes. Do stay with us.
Let's clear pimples. Step 1. Acne's Creamy Wash is a foamy and gentle cleanser that removes sebum and dirt in the pores. Step 2. Acne Soothing Toner maintains skin pH. Step 3. Acne Sealing Gel quickly clears pimple-causing bacteria. Mentholatum Acnes clears, cares, and helps prevent pimples. Roto.
Finding a home is not always as easy as it may seem. It is a long and tiring process, but here on The Realtor, we will break down all matters real estate to make it easier for you to find your dream home. From interior design to joint ventures, leasing of land, technology, and so much more. Tuesdays, 6:30 p.m.
Radio 47 tuko nawe mchana kutwa na usiku kucha. 95.5 Kakamega. Tunavuma na bado.
It is exactly 2 minutes past 10 p.m. We thank you for staying with us. In case you're just joining us, this is the Daily Report on TV 47. We're still with the Ombudsman, that is Honorable Florence Kajuju. Now, you know, earlier on before in for that break, Mheshimiwa, you spoke about, what the commission does. But of course, I mean, such a commission does not seem to operate in a lagoon, rather in its own vacuum, rather. There are challenges, of course, as the commission that you face. Perhaps, how have they been addressed so far?
Of course, there are quite a number of challenges, George, and one of them is budgetary, in the sense that the Commission, the Ombudsman's budget is projected at 1.2 billion, but we get almost half of that, which then means that by the time you pay salaries or the recurrent expenditure, you're left with very little money in terms of programs. So we've been engaging government, especially at the deputy president's level, and also and Parliament, to be able to get more resources. But of course, we understand that the economy is not where it should be in terms of ensuring that each of us should be able to get enough. So we are trying to work with what we have, and that is why we were able to partner with the Ministry of Public Service to be able to get our officers to sit in the Huduma centers, and it's something that is ongoing. But we also work with partners. We have a GIZ that supports the commission in terms of programs. We also have FLOCA. FLOCA is it's an arrangement with the development partners in Treasury. It's a financing locally led climate action program, and FLOCA has been supporting the commission to ensure that we get to the counties and be able to train the county governments in terms of complaints management. So we have done quite a number of rounds to the counties, going to visit the governors, they're getting the county employees and training them on complaints management. We are also moving towards, we signed an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding with the Council of Governors, and one of the things we agreed upon is to establish a county government administrative ombudsman. Because the law, according to the Commission on Administrative Justice Act, Section 8, it requires the ombudsman to be able to support establishment of complaints management structures in the national government and in the county government. So what we've done is agree with the counties that they need to employ a county government administrative ombudsman who then receives the complaints from citizens within the respective counties, and these complaints are resolved at source. So that is a program that is ongoing. Actually, next week we shall be going to other counties through the FLOCA arrangement, and I really thank them for finding the ombudsman as the place to be in terms of ensuring that counties support the complaints management structures within the primary source.
Yes.
We've also been able to ensure that we come to TV 47 and among other vernacular stations, among other partners who are able to give us the airtime to be able to speak to Kenyans. And we are also doing a lot of ombudsman mashinani. And we are
How is
moving.
that coming along, Ombudsman Mashinani? Are Kenyans understanding what you're doing really? Are they coming out in their numbers?
Yes, when we visit, we normally go to the vulnerable areas, like the slum areas. We also go to prisons. We also go to areas where we find people have been left out, so to speak. And we are able to train them and tell them, sensitize them, and tell them what the Ombudsman does for them. And then we allow them to lodge their complaints. Those who have complaints are able to lodge those complaints. We went to, during the devolution conference, we set up tent in Eldoret, where there was the other tents that had been established by the counties. And we were able to get so many complaints from the Rift Valley region. So you'll find that when we speak to Kenyans, they're able to understand what we do, and they're able to lodge their complaints with us, and we resolve them as quickly as we can. So there's a lot of progress.
Okay. Which region perhaps has, the most complaints by your estimation?
I think all regions have complaints, but if you ask me about ministries,
Yes, ministries.
I would tell you that the Ministry of Lands, we receive quite a number of complaints against the Ministry of Land officials. We also receive many complaints on passports, but I'm happy that that is being resolved. The major problem that we have is pensions department. Pensions department has been a major thorn in the flesh of Kenyans, especially Kenyans who have retired. And whenever we look at them and try to resolve issues, there's always that complaint about we are digitizing our programs, we are digitizing the processes, the files are lost. So we are really moving to ensure that the pensions department is also sorted out, just like the immigration department is being sorted out. So we are also moving very strongly to ensure that pensions of teachers, pensions of anyone who has worked in public service, then they're able to get their pension on time. Because you can't just retire from Nairobi, get to your rural area, then you get some money to be able to come back to Nairobi and follow your file. And when you get to Nairobi, you're told your file is lost, we have not received your file from Teacher Service Commission, and made any other excuses. And that's an opening for corruption. Because from where we sit as the Ombudsman, maladministration leads to corruption. So we are trying to stop the maladministration, we are trying to stop the delay, we are trying to stop the abuse of office, so that then we can actually stop corruption from the very source that it originates from.
When you look at these complaints, especially on matters pension, then how do, because Kenyans are results-oriented, do you think that then it is satisfactory in terms of not only just raising a complaint to the Office of the Ombudsman, but to see that indeed once, as a Kenyan, I come to the Office of the Ombudsman, I've registered this complaint, then I'll be able to see results?
Yes, of course. When I came into the commission, George, in the year 2018, we did a customer satisfaction survey. When it was done, then the customer satisfaction was at 28.6%. We did another customer satisfaction survey in 2020. The resolution rate and the satisfaction rate then was assessed at 48.6%. So you can see a lot of improvement. I'm sure if I do one by next year, before I leave the office, it should be around 60%. And I'm going to go home as a very happy Kenyan because I've left the Office of the Ombudsman in a better place. And that is not to mean that the first generation did not do as much. You remember when they started off the Office of the Ombudsman, they had to establish structures. They had to employ people, human resource. They had to start setting up offices. So they did so much as they could. But when we came in, we also tried now to be able to benefit out of the structures, but also reach out to the Kenyans and be able now to work with government and ensure we have moved forward. So to the best of our information and knowledge, we know that Kenyans at least know better about the Office of the Ombudsman.
Okay. Earlier on we did have a story on the community that has presented its memorandum to the bipartisan committee. Talk to us about the Sabot community. Talk to us about the indigenous communities and what exactly you're doing, because these are some of the people, they are based in Kenya. However, they are not recognized as it were. What are some of the issues, or how can such communities then come to the Ombudsman and receive help?
Actually, I'm happy that the Sabot have gone to the committee to be able to lodge their issues with the committee, because they expect results. As the Office of the Ombudsman, we have been dealing with indigenous communities, and one of the communities some of the communities that have come to us is the Ogiek community. The Ogiek are also in the Rift Valley, and they had filed quite a number of cases within the Kenyan courts. According to them, they did not receive the justice that they were expecting. So they moved to Arusha and filed a case in the African Court of Peoples and Human Rights. Okay. They obtained a judgment against the government of Kenya. This judgment declared that the Ogiek community should be able to get community land from the Mau forest. The same judgment also declared that the Ogiek community should be paid around 150 million, thereabouts, that as damages, that amount of money as damages for the damages that they suffered, historical injustices and all that. So that is one community that has come to us, one indigenous community that has come to the Ombudsman. We've gone to Jero, we've gone to Molo, to see some of the areas where they have occupied the forest, what they do with the forest, and whether they are doing a lot of reforestation. Because according to the African Court's judgment, the government of Kenya is supposed to implement that judgment within 12 months. The 1 year is long gone, so that's why they came to complain to the Ombudsman. Yes. So we are working with government, we are working with the AG, we are working with the Ministry of Lands, the National Lands Commission, the Gender and Equality Commission, Human Rights, all these institutions that deal with human rights and matters that affect the forest. Even the Ministry of the Forestry and the Honorable Soipan's ministry, we are working with them. So that is one community I can tell you we are pursuing their matter, and we are asking government to ensure that they implement the African Court's judgment, because the AG had been sued as the first respondent, and government was in court, and the matter was litigated upon, and a judgment was given in favor of the Ogiek. We also have when we visited Molo and Jero, the Kipsigis came to the commission as well. They said, even as you implement the Ogiek community judgment, remember, it might affect some of us who have settled within the Ogiek community. So that is an issue that we are also looking at, and we shall soon be revisiting the Mau forest to also listen to the complaints of the Kipsigis. Now I've seen the Sabot asking that they need their county, and we have seen that some of the issues that have been taken before the task force is a look at how the counties have been set up. Can we restructure the counties? Can we have more counties created? So that is an issue that I'll leave to that committee. But if this community was to come to us as well, then we'll be able to look at the complaint on whether they've been denied their rights to own community land, where they have been aggrieved, and then we'll be able to resolve in partnership with government. So these are issues that are happening, not just about communities, but even persons. There are persons who have come to us, they have been denied their rights, and we try to see how we can support them to ensure they get justice from government.
How long would the resolution of such a dispute or complaint take?
Like the Ogiek community, because we've had quite a number of meetings with government, you realize that Treasury is involved because there is some money that is supposed to be paid.
Precisely.
The Ministry of Forestry, the Ministry of Lands, National Lands Commission. So what I've done is to bring all these institutions at one table, to sit with them and ask the Treasury, when are you paying this money? Ministry of Lands, why can't you give the Ogiek this land that the court said they should be given? There's a caveat that was placed on these portions of land?
Yes.
When are you removing the caveat, Minister of Forestry? You know, so it is, it's not something that happens overnight, and the community understands, because we've been able to sit together with the various government agencies, and it's a resolution that we expect to get as soon as possible. But it's going to happen, George. It's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of the ministries or departments where the complaints are sort of less, where would you rate them, you know, to be perhaps a compliant, you know, agency, ministry where complaints have been filed, and when you come in as the ombudsman, then it is resolved? Is there a ministry that seems to be cooperating on, you know, listening to the advice of the ombudsman?
Most of the ministries are really complying. If I may give an example, is last week, we visited the Cabinet Secretary of Defense, and we were looking at issues around complaints management.
Yes.
We agreed with the Minister of Defense that the Ombudsman will be sitting at the court-martial, those proceedings, so that now we don't have people complaining at the tail end of the complaint that they were not granted opportunity to state their case. So we'll be sitting in the court-martials. We agreed with the Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Duale, and thanks to him, because that is a good way of ensuring that all parties sit at a table. We also looked at issues affecting citizens. How then, where there is conflict between the defense forces and the citizens, how we can resolve those issues. Some of them I might not go into details, but that ministry is really cooperating, working with the Ombudsman. We also look at the Minister of Interior, Honorable Kithure Kindiki, thanks to him. When we took the report, the investigation report on the passports, he was able to move in. I believe we looked at our recommendations, and of course the ministry in its own nature moved in, and they are working around it to ensure that part of the recommendations that we gave, the printers that were broken down, I think they sorted that out. The delay that was being experienced by Kenyans, I'm sure now it's being expedited, if what I see on the reports is anything to go by. So those are some of the ministries that are doing very well in ensuring that they comply with what the Ombudsman is doing. Of course, I have to thank the President and the Deputy President. The Deputy President has been able to sit with us severally to discuss on how we can sit as commissions and get our budgets enhanced. Of course, when we report to the President, because if you look at the constitutive acts of the respective commissions, we expect them to give our report to the President. Every year, we must submit a report to the President. And when we submit this report to the President, then the President is able also to help us to ensure that we move forward in terms of determinations and recommendations. So we're getting a lot of support from the Presidency and also Parliament. When we go to Parliament, to the Jailer Committee, Budget Committee, we ask for some supplementary budget here and there. We're able to get some money to be able to do the things that we must do. Yeah.
When you look even at the event today that we saw, the swearing in of the new Director of Public Prosecutions, what are some of the things that perhaps you anticipate to see with this new DPP?
You must have seen me there.
Yes, I saw you there.
Yeah, today I actually take this opportunity to congratulate the DPP, Renson Mulele. He came in today in office and we wished him well. When the President spoke, he advised the DPP that one of the things he would expect from the office is to ensure that he cleans up corruption. So the President's message was, when you get to that office, make sure that all the corruption cases that have been brought to the DPP then are dealt with. Then he advised that we should not have political cases that then are sort of punitive in terms of, or taking revenge against persons who don't agree with any particular situation. And the DPP also said that he's going to ensure that justice is there. Haki kwa kila mtu. And that is what we are looking at. So that now cases are resolved expeditiously. Persons are not just dragged to court for the sake of it. And investigations are done. Even the Inspector General of Police was there. They were advised that do investigations so that when you are taking a Kenyan to that court, the evidence that you have is watertight. You don't arrest and then seek for time to be able to go and collect evidence. Get your evidence together, then charge this Kenyan, so that at the end of the day, we don't have justice delayed, which then would be justice denied. Justice denied.
Yeah, as we enter the home stretch of this conversation, Mheshimiwa, in your tenure, which ends next year towards the months of this August thereabouts, what are some of the issues that you would be proud of, having done as the Ombudsman of the Republic?
Quite a number of them. I'm proud to report that after we came to the Commission, we're able to ensure that Kenyans are able to lodge complaints from the comfort of their homes by digitizing their Ombudsman's office. So we were able to, in May 2022, we were able to roll out the Complaints Management Information Systems, CMIS, that then allows Kenyans to be able to lodge their complaints from whatever location geographically without necessarily going to the office of the Ombudsman. Of course, it's at no fee, we don't charge, and we're able to track these complaints. It's easier to track them and report to the citizen. They can see the progression of their complaints, whether we've written to the ministries and the response of the ministry, and how then the matter is being resolved. So digitizing the commission has been a very good progress from our side. Then we've been able to open more offices. So far we've opened 2 offices, Nyahururu and Garissa, over and above the offices that were there. We're able to increase the Huduma centers, and now we are moving to open 2 more offices this financial year. And then also we can speak about training county government officers and training ministries officers. With every MDA, we always get in, train the officers so that they can manage complaints much better. So then we have also been able to employ a few more officers. Our human capacity is supposed to be 272, but right now we are at around 120, which is a little bit not enough,
Yeah.
So we are trying to decentralize and be able to get more officers employed so that they can get their services closer to the people. And then we are also looking at the laws that are there. How do we then amend them to make them better for the people who come in after us?
Okay. And in the continent, what are some of the challenges that you've noticed that, the offices of the Ombudsman, face?
As the Secretary General of the African Ombudsman and Mediators Association, I'm proud to report that during my time, we agreed as the African region to be able to come and monitor and observe the elections of Kenya in 2022. We were able to form a mission with Ombudsman from Malawi. She was the head of mission, Ombudsman from Tanzania, Ombudsman from various countries. There were around 5 of them. And they came and observed the elections. They were able to do a report, which we then submitted to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. And they made their observations on how the elections were conducted. We also, at the regional level, in terms of the African Ombudsman and Mediators Association, we've been able to have a lot of benchmarking. So many ombudsmen have come to Kenya to be able to see how the ombudsman operates. At the international level, we've been able to also bring in the international ombudsmen into our country and also visit them. We formed a partnership with UNITA. UNITA is the United Nations training arm of the at the international or at the globe level, and we can train our officers from here to the United States. So we have quite a number of relationships that we've created along the way, and the Ombudsman now is better in terms of how then we are viewed regionally and internationally. Yes.
Absolutely. And what do you want to see, once your tenure is over in the Republic? What do you want to see moving forward, implemented even more, built on what you've been able to achieve so far?
I would pray that we are able to oversight counties much more, because when you devolve functions according to the Constitution, Schedule 4, you expect citizens to get the services that they deserve.
Yeah.
When these services are not given at the county level, it's the citizen who suffers. It is the burden of the Ombudsman to ensure that counties offer that service. And when they don't, then the Ombudsman can declare a public officer unfit to hold public office.
Okay.
So I'm praying that we can tighten the oversighting of the Ombudsman at the county level.
Yes.
That we can also oversight the national government much better. Before I forget, we don't just condemn the bad public officer. We also commend the good public officer. The Ombudsman has been having the Huduma Ombudsman Award, where we are able to check across the country who are the public officers who have done good, who have excelled in offering service.
And are there the Kenyans who are doing good? Service
Yes, there are quite a number. I will invite TV47, a due judge in particular, on the 23rd of November this year. We shall host the 4th Ombudsman Award, where we are going to award public officers who have excelled in public service.
Absolutely.
Right now we are going around the country. We have officers who are going around the country trying to see who are these officers who are doing their best in serving Kenyans.
Absolutely.
On that date, 23rd November, we've requested none other than His Excellency the President of this country, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, to join us and be able to award his officers who have excelled in public service delivery. You'll see it.
Absolutely. And as you want to be really strained for time, but Mheshimiwa, you are from the political background. After the tenure is done, will you be going back there?
Judge, you should invite me in August, once I'm done with the public service, and ask me that question.
Absolutely. Perhaps your closing remarks to Kenyans, if you can look with the camera.
Yes, Kenyans, thank you for reaching out to the Ombudsman. Thank you for wanting to know what the Ombudsman does. We'll continue to do our best to offer you service, to ensure that the public officers who have been mandated to serve you better, and hata mnyonge ana haki.
Absolutely. Indeed, that is the Ombudsman of the Republic of Kenya, the chairperson of the Commission on Administrative Justice, the Office of the Ombudsman, Honorable Florence Kajuju. Thank you so much for speaking to us tonight on the Daily Report. We appreciate your feedback, and we indeed look forward to hosting her once this is done, and of course deliberating on issues that concern the county that she's come from. My name is George Maringa. Do have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow on the People's Court. As always, stay safe and be kind to one another.